an agenda in front of me. Do we got to go through full course since this is a special session work? Okay, let's start this meeting. Roll call, please.
Weir,
Here.
Casanello, Bader, here, Larson,
Here.
Schneider, Ramirez, here, Marsh.
Here.
Okay, looks like we have 2 people missing. We're still in a quorum, right?
Correct.
Okay, just want to state that for the record. Okay, we'll move on. I guess it's time for, I guess what the true purpose of this meeting was, and that's to work with the Crossroad Villages development. I guess to begin, does anybody have any questions up front, or do we want to go into starting to look at the site plan and discussing the stuff for the SUP? Okay, let's go into site plan. Okay, Don. Let us know what your frustrations are, what you're looking at getting done, and we'll start from there.
All right, looks like I'm there. Well, thanks for you guys taking your time tonight. We appreciate that very much. So I think from the last meeting, we were discussing kind of two issues that kind of were surrounding the SUP. One was, to my understanding, the language in which we were using the description, or I don't know what the legal terminology is, but I believe it's how the determination of the use, I guess the use description. And we were using Loudoun County's definition of that use description of coffee. And so just wanted to work through that with you and add words, take words away, whatever we need to do there. And then I think the second thing was to discuss the best option as to how the drive-through lane circulates through the property. And I think we have Chad, did you print out 2 iterations or the one? Yeah. Okay, so we've got a full set here which shows the, I think, prior iteration that we had presented, and then the later one that we've presented, which shows it coming out into the Lidl parking field. So I don't know where you want to start there. I think you want to do the language one first. That one seems to be maybe easy. So I can read the proposed language that we had. So it says use limitations. The use approved with this special use permit shall be limited to a restaurant with drive-through, limited to a coffee shop. The coffee shop use shall be defined as and allow for an establishment that primarily prepares, sells, and serves coffee, tea, and other beverages, and which may sell baked goods and light meals such as soups and sandwiches, but does not serve full meals, and which has a seating area which serves as an informal conversation or lounging place. So that's our proposed language. Loudoun County's language is Loudoun County's language the upper one?
Yes.
Correct.
That was not
Okay.
proposed in the package
Okay.
submitted.
Let me Loudoun County, because that was our proposed language. So here's Loudoun County. Use limitations. The use approved with this special use permit shall be limited to a restaurant with drive-through, limited to a coffee shop. The coffee shop use shall allow for, in general, but not limited to, an establishment that primarily prepares, sales, and serves coffee, tea, blended beverages, and other beverages, and which may sell baked goods and meals, soups and sandwiches, and which has a seating area for customers. So that is the Loudoun County definition.
No,
that
that's
is-
yours.
That's what you guys submitted in your SUP application, and the first one you read was Loudoun County.
Oh. So I'm okay. Okay. And I believe the town attorney had concern about specifically the wording of where it says the coffee shop use shall allow for, in general, but not limited to. Was that the? That
Part
was
of
the-
it, yes.
That was the part that they were getting hung up with. So open to what wording that you all feel should be imposed there. We're fine with, we understand that the use is limited for coffee, primary coffee use. But, and I think that the Loudoun County definition probably was written around a Starbucks, would be my guess, because that's pretty much what a Starbucks is with, in their definition.
And for the record, you're comfortable putting, sorry, the mask hides me.
That's right.
So you're comfortable moving forward with the Loudoun County language. That's why you're presenting it today, correct?
Correct,
Okay, so I understand. Thank you.
correct. Yeah.
Now, Emily, do we have any description for such an application in any of our text ordinances?
The coffee shop,
Yes.
we do not at this time, no.
Did you have a chance to work with our town legal counsel on what an appropriate description would be for this?
So we had some brief discussions. So one of the concerns, as mentioned, was the change in serving light meals versus full meals. But we also want to ensure that any limitation or definition is getting at the heart of the problem that we're discussing, which is the additional traffic during the hours when the other establishments that have peak hours for their drive-throughs, making sure that that additional traffic is not encumbering the traffic that's already there, and we're addressing the heart of the problem.
And you assume that the description could help separate the traffic balance, or that it still opens it up to strictly during peak times of breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
I think that the description can open us up for different options on how to better mitigate the peak hour traffic that's generated, and that's something that we should discuss here and just be all on the same page of when this proposed use, their exact peak hours would be, when the other existing uses, what their peak hours are, and how together we can best mitigate the impact.
Bob?
Just to be clear, this is a definition change. We're in a definition addition to the zoning text. And as far as I'm aware, we do not have the authority to make a zoning text change, even if it's something as minor as a definition adjustment, without going through the process of a ZTA, whether it's applicant or council initiated, and going through the process of PC review and public hearing. So,
I think the way that this is being proposed is that it's a suggested, or it's a proposed condition that the council would accept or deny.
there is no definition of coffee shop.
That is correct, and
And so we're essentially creating a definition
so they're
by
offering.
condition.
So they're offering a condition on the SUP.
Which,
the actual-
which will then carry through to anybody else who wants to do it, and then we'll make the argument that that is now an accepted definition. I view it as a zoning text change.
Okay.
I think it started out, I think Emily wanted to have a better defined term for, it still is a restaurant with a drive-through. So that is still use, that is still the use definition. It is a restaurant with drive-through, quote unquote, limited to coffee use. So I think that's how it's always been described. Yep.
I mean, I hear Bob's comment that it would set a precedent and thus would affect the zoning text and our zoning definitions overall. So I hear that. I'm not sure if this will impede anything that we do now or if there are extra steps that we need to do. Emily, do you?
I think one of my questions for council would be, is the issue the condition, or are there other issues that the council would like to discuss with the applicant regarding the application? Is, if traffic is still of a concern regarding the drive-through and the peak traffic hours, do we discuss that and any conditions or mitigation tactics regarding those items, and then come back to this condition of the coffee shop use? Or is it?
So what I'm hearing is by specifying what type of use it is through this application as a condition to mitigate traffic, we would not then be adjusting zoning text amendment or need a zoning text amendment. Is that what I'm hearing? Like, because this is a condition. Is that right? Am I hearing that right? I'm just trying to clarify, like, that I heard you right.
Yes, I just want to make sure that all of council's concerns are brought up and addressed, and that we're all on the same page of exactly what the concerns are.
Okay, all right. So should we put a pause on this use language then?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a debate. Let's try to get over the bigger hurdle, though, and that's, I guess, the drive-through. If we can get through that, I'm sure we could probably clean up what is required, whether it be a text amendment, a restriction that is intended to become a text amendment or whatever.
Okay.
May I
So,
ask
yeah,
about traffic?
go ahead.
Okay. So what is the plan to mitigate during the peak hours of the other already existing?
This is a new discussion for me, so I've not heard anything discussed about mitigation. So all I heard for the last couple of times was that I think council wanted to understand what the best approach was in terms of the drive-through and how it would be exiting the particular site. So we brought Chad here from Grove Slade, which is our traffic engineer, and he was able to print, and maybe you have that on your packet, I'm not sure. You gonna put it up on the screen? Okay. You have the microphone. Yeah, so he'll discuss the proposed SUP as we had shown it, and why the major retailers such as Lidl, Starbucks had chosen this design over the others. And then he'll also describe from a traffic engineering perspective why he believes what plan would be best in terms of.
But before you hand over the microphone, Don, are you saying that over the last few meetings you haven't heard or been a part of any discussions for traffic mitigation? Or just the word mitigation?
Mitigation, the word.
Oh, just
yeah.
the word?
Yeah, I'm not.
Because we
It's
have
confusing.
discussed traffic.
Oh, certainly. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so that's not a true statement, what you just said.
True or not, I've not heard anything about mitigation. Mitigation, in my term or definition, is defining or setting boundaries, which we've not talked about, setting boundaries on time.
We have discussed it with single lane and double lane. That is mitigation.
Okay.
So maybe, let us just not get confused that we never used the term mitigation, but whatever replacement you want to use for that word, we have
Impact.
discussed it in the past.
I would use impacts.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
That's fine.
Very good, Chad.
My name is Chad Baird with Grove Slade. Our office is actually right across the street from this application. We're in the, I used to call it Cupcake Heaven building, but now I guess I'll call it the Shadiac building. Everybody's familiar with it. As soon as the plan comes up, I'm happy to talk through what we've looked at with the coffee shop circulation. Hard to point here or there. But Don asked us to take a look at, there's two alternatives, two traffic flow alternatives for flow through the drive-through. There was a discussion about 2 lanes with 2 service areas, and then you pick up your coffee at the pickup window, and then how that would exit from the coffee shop location. One alternative had it exiting out onto the main inbound-outbound for the right-in, right-out from Route 55. And then the second alternative, the preferred alternative, I guess I'd say, has the service lane going into the parking lot area. Yes.
Just so I'm clear, you've only been engaged with this portion of the project, correct? You were not advised to consider traffic of the larger picture?
We looked at the larger picture, but this was kind of the focus of what we've talked about today. So.
Okay, so you have knowledge of the overall picture as well?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So can you go to well, I'll just go to this plan. So I think everybody has seen this plan. If not, I can walk through. It has well, I'll keep calling it a coffee shop, but I assume it's going to be Starbucks. But coffee shop, the proposed grocery store or Lidl, with access coming in off of Route 55. Parking lot is in the front towards 55, and then you have the 2 stacking lanes. This is the order booths. So there's 2 order booths that funnel into one single lane in the pickup, and then it funnels back out here into the main thoroughfare coming into the parking area. This is the main thoroughfare right to the front of the grocery store. This alternative, again, pulls right into the main thoroughfare, so cars coming in off of 55 going to Lidl will be going right in front of this stopped area. This would then, people would either come out and turn right out, which a good majority will, because it's called pass-by traffic, turning in, flowing, and then flowing back out. But anybody that wants to head back towards the town of Haymarket or the residential portion, they turn right in, and then they have to loop through the parking lot to come back to the signal. This signal is actually in the second phase, just so everybody knows, of VDOT's review. We're almost to the approval for it, so this should be coming pretty soon. So this is one of the alternatives. I think everyone's seen this. Do you have the second PDF? I think you closed it.
And when you say, I'm sorry, when you say the light is coming soon, do you mean like breaking ground and establishing
No.
that intersection?
So we have to go through there's several phases of the design. So there's the preliminary phase where we submit it to VDOT. There's usually a couple reviews. They look at where the poles are located, junction boxes, all the stuff that goes on the outside, kind of on the high level. They review that and approve that to make sure that we have everything set. And then we go to the second phase, which is called the final phase, which looks at the conduit, cable, all that stuff. We're in that second phase.
Okay.
Once that's approved, then it goes to shop drawings, permitting, sent out to contractors, and it's going to typically takes another 6 months to a year before they can get the signal up and running, because the
Okay.
poles are sometimes 3 to 4 months just to order.
Gotcha. Thank you.
This is the new alternative that we had discussed, that we started to walk through and had a discussion about, and I can go back to the other one, but I think there was a discussion about the trash location up here in the front. This got moved to the back over here. Again, the inbound is coming in off of 55, same location, 2 stacking lanes again with the order booths, and then funneling into where the window is. And then this takes you out into the parking lot, which I think is more of a preferred alternative from a traffic standpoint, because now that people have the option to go to the signal or left and then out to Route 55. One of the reasons this is more preferable is this corridor typically has more traffic flow coming in and out. And then also pedestrians that are walking along 55 that want to come in, the less obstructed this is for people to have to get to Lidl or walk into the into the Starbucks, the better. So less curb cuts on this section. So putting this into the parking lot, there's more maneuvering. People are typically used to it. We can put stop controls, stop signs, all that stuff there. Also, this opens this area up for pedestrians. You can do more stuff here, bikes, whatever. It's a more cleaner area in front of the Lidl. I think this is the front door. Is that correct? So it opens this up for more pedestrian connectivity. So from a traffic flow, pedestrian, bike flow standpoint, this was a preferred option from our standpoint when we were looking at it. Again, you want to get to the signal, it's a simple right back to the signal. You want to get out, make a right out. It's, again, a simple left, and you're out. These are the 2 alternatives, and I think I talked about the dumpster here. This allows for 15 cars stacking, and then if it overflows, it's flowing internal to the site, not out onto 55. So it's pushed in far enough where if there is overflow, it sits inside the parking lot, and also we have 15 spaces, and as everybody knows, with most coffee shops, they're much quicker turnover, high turnover. Can you go back to the other one? Because I think I might have missed, I don't know if I pointed out the parking area down here about because I think that was one comment you might have had or something might have had, where we had the loading or dumpster up here near 55. So there was a discussion, the new alternative puts it up here. So from the front of Washington Street up here to the side. And then it could be screened up here.
Chad, one other thing I'll comment on this one too is, so on this plan here, we've got a queuing lane as well. So when we added that feature in, so if, for instance, one of you folks come through here with a very difficult order and it takes longer to prepare it, they'd say, would you just please pull up onto your left there? And so we've got a 2-car queuing over here now. So that's a big help. So if someone does slow up due to an order, it'll queue up here and then allow this traffic to continue to flow properly. So that's a big help, I think, when we added that in.
So that was it about the circulation for the service drive-through. If you had any questions for me?
And both of them accommodate the same number of vehicles.
Correct.
Mr. Mayor. Emily, does this covers the concerns that we have with moving the dumpster?
Yes, so the main concern was having that dumpster in the upper right-hand corner of the parcel was that it was highly visible from Washington Street as our residents were going back and forth. So we really just wanted to ensure that as you're driving along, you're not looking right into the dumpster. So it did address it by moving it to the rear of the property.
Was there any other concern from your office?
Regarding the dumpster?
No, this overall plan.
On the other plan, there was some concern of where it dumped out, and when you get right there in front of the grocery store, if you take the left or the right with pedestrians and how busy it would be. So there is some benefit we see in moving the exit to where it is there. However, to some degree, and maybe Chad could speak to it, there was some concern of now it's going into the parking lot. Yes, you would hope users are pretty familiar with cars backing out and just being mindful, but, there was still a little concern there regarding now these cars are coming out and they can take a left or the right there, how does that affect the overall parking lot?
What's our ratio right now for parking?
Ratio of parking.
So you're talking about center-wide
Well, the parking that they're outflowing into is not Starbucks.
legal.
It's Lidl. So Lidl's a ratio.
I don't know off the top of my head, maybe probably 4.5 to 5
Okay.
thousand.
Typical grocery stores are anywhere between 4 to 5. Parking ratios have actually been going down over the years.
Depends on where you live.
Say again?
Depends on where you live.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you go in towards Arlington, they can be
Yeah.
2 per thousand.
I have a quick question. So in your standard parking, so you've got your 2 drive-through lanes, and you've got your regular parking here, right, on the bottom part. But if somebody parks there and you said the overflow is going to be there, then the only way for that car to come out would be back out and come out this way.
They have to-
Correct.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, all this parking has to come back out this way.
right.
So if you're
So if you
parking
have
in the-
backup from your drive-throughs, that's going to be right in there, and then your customers that are parked there will have to do,
If there are issues, I don't want to, I mean, we've all been to drive-throughs, there are some that are product of their own success, but 15 stacked cars for a coffee shop is a good amount for a coffee shop.
Have you participated in any traffic studies for Starbucks drive-throughs specifically?
No, we've done a CVS. I can't recall. I can go ask other of my colleagues to see what they have, and we can pull some information if you'd like to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I would be curious as to, what kind of studies have been done. Because I'm assuming that you did a sort of traffic study of what we have currently.
Yes.
And what we've been experiencing here in town.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Chick-fil-A is a product of their own success. I mean,
right, and even Chick-fil-A backs into
Oh, yeah.
55 and prevents traffic from flowing
they're their own
towards
animal.
15.
I mean, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's success is a little bit different, but Chick-fil-A's, at least all the ones we've worked on across the entire region, they all have that
Mm-hmm.
similar condition. Starbucks
So-
on the other hand is 15 stack is fairly standard, but again, I can get you studies if you'd like to see them.
Okay.
Yeah. Emily, do you still have that information? And this was before your time, so that's why I'm
Right,
bringing
yes,
it up.
That, I know, I'm a late bloomer.
That's fine. Yeah, so I don't know how long ago it was, but we were asked to go to Starbucks corporate and bring specific data concerning, I think, 2 or 3 locations that was asked specifically of
I
it.
can
and
recall reading that in
So-
agendas previously.
So we did get that data and bring it back, and it talked about how many what were the peak hours and what was the stacking on peak
Sure.
hours for those locations. And I think it was Manassas and,
Leesburg was one.
Manassas, Leesburg, and Warren.
yeah.
Okay.
So that
Outside
data
of Warrenton.
was done. and
So with
available.
all that in mind and all the studies that you guys have, accumulated,
This exceeds the stacking requirement during peak.
sure. And so, I guess I wanted to ask, how do you feel that addresses the traffic concerns that we have, given that you've seen what we already are experiencing? And then adding on this drive-through, and since you've seen the larger picture, there's gonna be 2 more additional. So, right. So, given all of that, the times, the peak times, the stacking, all of that, do you feel like this mitigates traffic concerns?
Don't use that word.
oh,
Don doesn't know it.
minimises, yeah, no.
If this alleviates the impact of traffic as much as possible? And could
Yes,
you explain how?
I do believe it. The signal is a big part of it. I
Okay.
mean, we've looked at the signal, we can put more volume on the signal. The signal helps tremendously, not only from this thing is, I'm breathing in this thing, but not only from our traffic, but also the corridor. I mean, the Town of Haymarket, again, I'm office there, I live in Piedmont, very familiar with Town of Haymarket. You better be going 25 or you're gonna get pulled over.
Yes,
I tell
sir.
anybody that comes here.
But safety.
A lot of
safety
us
too.
walk.
And safety, yes, but I mean, again, there's enforcement, so when you enforce it, it maintains it, and the signal is gonna help with progression down the corridor. You're coming off of 15, which is high speed, and they're coming in, they gotta start slowing down. So that, coupled with getting traffic in and out over here, this level of service is Cs and Bs, even adding more traffic to it. So the signal is gonna help with progression along the corridor, this right in, right out, again, getting to these two service bays, as well as there's another one on this side, in and out, and then a signal to help get traffic through. And another piece of that is the pedestrians, just getting pedestrians across the street. Again, being on this side, trying to run across to get to Giuseppe's, you're running across the road. So the signal is a big help for this corridor, and our analysis shows that everything in this area works acceptably. And again, I'm sorry, I'm losing my
No, you're fine.
breathing with this thing.
So you spoke about pedestrian safety, and you spoke about the signal being a key element. With your experience, and you know, you live in this community, so you understand. Do you feel like a signal and some sidewalks is enough enough of a change to alleviate the impact of the dangers cars would present to the pedestrians?
Well, there's other things, there's road improvements, there's widening through here as well. There's a median being installed, which I think helps as well, separates the two sides, it's being extended down to this portion. And then also the signal is going to help for pedestrians getting across. So now you're gonna have sidewalk on the north side and on the south side. Today, it's just path, ditch, and then pedestrian accommodations on the south side, and then a signal to, again, help pedestrians cross, and then coupled with the progression along the corridor. And then on the way far side of town, you got the roundabout that also is helping slow down some of the traffic coming into the town, if it ever gets up and operational. Maybe I shouldn't have brought that up.
I think people just have lead feet.
Yeah.
So I guess my concern would stem from pedestrian safety, and being the small town where we are very happy to be walkable, and that's a point of pride for us. What kind of protections are built into this plan for the pedestrians with the drive-through, like that inlet right there without the signal?
Here?
No, forward towards Washington Street. Yes, to cross that street. Aside from increased enforcement to ensure people are actually stopping at the stop sign and looking for pedestrians, considering that there will be several of these coming down a very small space, what do you think that we've done everything we can to, limit the impacts?
I believe so. Again, high visibility crosswalk here, if you're gonna go with the stamp pavers or the brick. I don't know if the town's still sticking with the brick or stamp pavers. But again, textured helps slow down traffic because it's a different feel when the cars are going over it. There's a decel lane here. Again, the decels typically aren't standard for 25 miles an hour because you're already you want to actually slow traffic down when you're turning. But the decel helps because now they're able to focus on the target. And then making sure this area is clean so that they're seeing the pedestrians. So I believe what we're showing here mitigates all those impacts.
And do you know if these same efforts are going to be uniform through the whole streetscape, if you will?
I believe they are. I believe it connects up from this
It's gonna be
side
the same?
all the way over to the Chick-fil-A. And you'll have a uniform connection now on the north side.
Would you feel comfortable walking from here to CVS and crossing all of these with the things that you've put in place?
Absolutely. He walked here today. On the other side.
Yeah, on the other side. And then he had to cross back
Then he
over,
had to
right?
walk around, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm finished. You go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, can I?
Your turn.
If all goes well and with your plan and your submissions and the council approves the SUP, will the Starbucks become operational before the sign? Will there ever be a scenario where it becomes operational before the stoplight
Signal.
signal?
No.
typically, just from my experience, these two guys require this thing before they open.
Okay.
They typically do. They get in a fight with VDOT because VDOT doesn't want it open until the traffic's there, so it usually goes in well before these two.
Ms. Emily, is there any condition where that would not be the case?
For the light to go in after the fact.
Uh-huh.
So we can refer back to the original application of what the trigger point was, and I can get that information for you. Because there was a trigger put in the original application.
Yeah, I think that would be beneficial just to make sure that we know and also the developer knows.
And from a timing standpoint, the signal is about a year away. I don't know what
Breaking time is?
I don't know
To
whose
be
idea it
clear,
was. Sorry, go ahead.
A year away from full approval.
Approval will probably, for the signal design, we're probably 2-3 months max
Okay.
from the signal. Then you gotta go into shop drawings and permitting and ordering poles and then test pits and all the other stuff that goes along with it. So it's roughly a year away from that thing coming out of the ground.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
And I don't know, this is more of a VDOT question, I guess, but timing's already been standardized for it. There's no observation period where they got to watch to make
Signal
sure timing, signal timing, yeah.
No, we do the signal timings when the permit's pulled. They don't let us do the signal timings till the permit's pulled. So then they'll send us their 8 different timing periods, and then we'll plug them in, we'll check them out through the corridor, make sure they all match, and we go back and forth with VDOT probably another month. That's happening while while they're doing all the shop drawing stuff. So we're not there yet, and if there's something the town needs specific, then let us know so we can try and get it into the timings. And I say that in the light of, if you're wanting to prioritize something, we need to make sure that VDOT knows that, or you need to convey that to VDOT, we need to know that before we do it. But otherwise, we'll follow typical VDOT standards for signal timings.
Yeah, something like adding a 10-second delay for pedestrians to cross and stuff
have
like
that.
that, right?
It's not 10 seconds, but it's a lead, basically. What you're saying is, you would start off, pedestrians could start, and then you get the green light coming out from the side street. So the
Yeah,
pedestrians
stuff-
are already in
stuff
the
like
middle of
that.
the road, so people can see them. That's a feature now, I think, with most signals that we're doing, so. But that's something we can just make sure we do that in our signal timings.
We're good. Bob, do you have anything?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, we had this discussion to address, and then, of course, we had the description. Are we back at the description? We all happy with the information we gathered for this?
I am, sir.
Can I just ask one question?
Go ahead.
Okay. The white space between the drive-through and parking space to the corner there where, no, down towards Washington Street, sorry, I'm focusing there. All that white space, what is that? Is that green space? Is that concrete?
Green space, and that's where the brick sidewalk is at as well.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So,
It's all grass.
okay, you're gonna use that as grass, okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, back to the description. Bob, you raised concerns. What kind of concerns do you have if we put a description under the assumption we're going to add that description to the text amendment?
I don't think we should be I don't think we can do it, what is in essence a zoning text amendment by way of condition, especially if we're going to base it on a definition from Loudoun County.
Well, I definitely,
I mean, if we're going to take the language from Loudoun County and call it a definition, then we need to do a ZTA to incorporate the definition so that it applies to everybody in the jurisdiction and not just condition this application using one-off language. That's a horrible precedent. I mean, if we don't have a definition, then we need to create one. But I think this issue's been raised before. It's at some point in time in the genesis of the process of this application, the possible need for a ZTA at some point in time to cover the use. But I don't think we should be And I don't think we're empowered to create a ZTA from the dais without going through the process.
Yep. Oh, well, I totally agree with that, but, depending on whether we want to do efforts in parallel or not,
It would still require, in my view, a referral to the planning commission, and then the whole public process.
Okay, Tracy Lynn, I saw your hand up.
Oh, no, I was counting, sorry.
Your guys' feedback on, I guess, the zoning text amendment.
But if what
Issues.
Bob is saying is true, then we could develop the text and send it through first to the attorney to review and then to
Yeah.
PC.
What type of timeframes do we usually see that go through, Emily? Do you know?
Zoning text amendment?
Yeah, especially since we're in the halfway through it. I'm assuming we'd have to re-announce a public announcement, have a public viewing of it because we're modifying it again.
No,
So-
you would do it as a separate one.
Would be
Correct.
Separate?
We would do that as a separate one, and usually that time frame's 3 to 4 months, could be longer depending on when the meeting is held, if the planning commission forwards it at the first meeting or takes a second, when the public notices go out for adequate timing, so 3 to 4 is typically the quickest it would be. And that's if you don't do any joint meetings.
So let's back up a bit, Mr. Mayor. Is it factual that it needs to be what Bob is saying?
Well, that's something we'll have to research. I don't have it. Do you have it at hand, Emily?
I will be speaking with the town attorney tomorrow if council would like me to ask for that information, because then we still have the work session in the regular meeting, so I could probably get you guys an answer from the town attorney probably by the end of the week. I'll let them know it's a pressing matter if you guys would like.
Well, yeah, we need to
Well,
know.
yeah, I'd definitely ask for that.
I know Bob is right most of the time, but I've caught him on 2 occasions where he wasn't right.
It's like that's all you caught me with.
And if I could clarify real quick too, I think from my understanding of this and how I've been interpreting it, is that the definition or the use definition and the use is still what you have in your zoning text amendment, which is a drive-through restaurant with, or is a restaurant with drive-through. And I think what Emily was trying to convey to me and how I took it is that basically she's asking for a use limitation as a condition. And so that doesn't impact, it shouldn't impact the actual definition of restaurant with drive-through. It's just then conditioning its use to a coffee. So that's how I took it.
What's the SUP? What was the SUP?
In my understanding, I don't have a good understanding of the difference between I guess a proffer and an SUP and
An
these
SUP has a-
restrictions associated with it, so.
An SUP has conditions and a proffer has, and rezoning generally has proffer.
Because I know SUPs usually fall under a zoning.
No,
condition,
SUPs are
right?
different than rezonings. In SUPs, you can initiate conditions, and you've got a different set of circumstances with a rezoning with respect to proffers, both cash and physical, and who can initiate them and who can't, and what is an acceptable way at arriving at a proffer. The rules are different for an SUP than they are for a rezoning.
But I thought the SUP was triggered because of the drive-through request.
That is
By
correct.
ordinance,
this is a
the drive-through requires an SUP.
Okay, so the drive-through that Don is saying is not a part of the original description then?
Of the original site plan?
No, but the text.
Of our ordinances.
No. The SUP is for a drive-through, which is an allowable use, but requires an SUP under the ordinance.
Say that again?
A drive-through restaurant in this particular circumstance requires an SUP by ordinance because of the
Drive-through.
zoning designation of the underlying parcel. As a use, it requires an SUP.
Okay.
What I'm suggesting is that a coffee shop is not a drive-through restaurant by definition,
Right.
which brings us to the elephant in the room, which is one of the reasons I would deem a coffee shop not to be a drive-through restaurant is the dramatic difference in the TIA, the VPD, the vehicles per day for a coffee shop are 20 to 30% higher for a coffee shop than a drive-through restaurant, according to the most recent ITE volumes.
Is that a question?
I'm just looking at them. I believe it's somewhere in the ballpark of 20 to 50, and your own numbers show that it increases the traffic roughly 20 to 30% for the entirety of the project, adding 2,000 trips.
For the entirety of the project, yes.
Correct.
There were other uses that were changed. It wasn't just the coffee shop, there were other changes.
What we have is a site plan with X number of trips for the approved uses. And now the addition of a coffee shop with a traffic generation number replacing a bank drive-through that is orders of magnitude greater than what was approved, with no discussion of total traffic at final build-out of the entirety of the site plan. Increasing the total vehicles per day by several thousand.
Just to clarify, there were other uses within the plan that had changed. So it wasn't necessarily a takeout fast food, add in donut shop, coffee shop, and then see what the difference is. If you're looking for that, I can get you that information.
I've already done the calculation, and it's already been provided. And replacing the bank with the coffee shop and doing the numbers with what's already approved and what's allowed on that site, the total is significantly higher by several thousand.
The daily is more, yes, yes, I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying there were other uses. It's not necessarily looking at one specific drive-through versus a coffee shop. There were other uses. The grocery store wasn't originally in the original application.
I understand that, and I have all those numbers. We have the revised numbers to incorporate the grocery store, to incorporate the coffee shop, to incorporate those changes. The bottom line is the nexus between that which was approved in 2018 and what would be approved if this SUP were accepted, the delta is several thousand trips per day.
So there's a couple of things, and I don't know if we want to get knee deep into it. I'm happy to, or we can talk offline or at another work session, however you'd like to go about it. So there's a couple of things. The traffic impact study was originally scoped out several years ago and approved at the board, at the town council, with uses that were in it. And then they had trips, so you'll have the AM, the PM, the weekday, the Saturday, so on and so forth. What we've put in front of you is taking an apples to apples, what was in the original study, and put in the current uses that are on the site with what was in the original study, meaning the parameters, passed by other things. And it shows the increase like you're saying. There's a couple of things that wasn't done with the original study that should have been done, so that study was conservative. If we went back and met with VDOT and rescoped this, we would take a higher pass-by rate. So for a coffee shop, there was no pass-by rate. And I'm assuming everybody knows what pass-by is. Maybe I shouldn't assume that. Does everybody understand?
There was no coffee shop initially, so there wasn't a discussion of pass-by rate for a coffee shop.
Which is my point. We didn't take that reduction in the trip gen that we had submitted you because, again, we didn't sit down and scope this with anybody. We just put the numbers in, spit the numbers out to show here's what the difference is. If we went in and used what was typically allowed for coffee shops can take up to 80%. I would say it's probably closer to 50% pass-by rate. That would be a reduction of new trips on the road. And again,
In the last iteration I saw, there wasn't accommodation for the pass-by rates.
there was no accommodation for the coffee shop with pass-by, none. In our
In the material that we were provided, there was a pass-by deduction in there.
right, but the
So what you're telling me is we weren't given the correct information
No.
2 months, 3 months, 4 months ago? I mean, I'm tired of playing this game with the numbers. They keep changing. I mean, I've had to correct the numbers several times because you guys can't do basic math. Addition and subtraction were not done, and all of the line items were not incorporated, and the math was not properly done in the table. It took us having to point it out. So I want to see the real number.
Why don't you just tell everybody what pass through or pass by is, because I think there's some people who may not know what that is.
So pass by, there's two things that we're allowed to take that we would look at. Pass by and internal capture. So pass by is, there's cars on this road today that are driving today. Just by the nature of a coffee shop showing up, those cars would now turn in, go to the coffee shop, and then continue on their way. So we actually deduct, so if there's 100 cars here and we say 10 of those, just because this coffee shop is here, are going to turn in, we take this 100, drop it down to 90, put 10 here, they turn in, and then 10 turning back out. So it'd still be a total of 100 here and 100 here, and those are existing, they're just turning in. So it's no new trips to Washington Street, it's just added turns here. Does that make sense? So that's just by nature of this thing showing up. So people that are in Haymarket driving through here today, this Starbucks shows up, they're going in here and they're heading out. That's one piece of it, and there's rates that we're allowed to take deductions on. Internal capture is another one, which is by virtue of a coffee shop and a Lidl and townhomes or whatever, it's called internal capture. So you're going to come in here, jump to your Lidl, get all your groceries, you're going to come on over here, get some Starbucks, and then head on your way. So we wouldn't count 2 trips, we just count 1 trip. So we take those trips, we don't count it going here, and then we're allowed to reduce traffic for the internal capture. Those 2 were not done in this calculation. And just for clarification, in our original traffic study, we didn't break down some of these things. We just had shopping center. And when you do shopping center, there is no, it's embedded in it. Embedded in the internal capture. So it's just already part of, we're assuming everybody's going to everything shopping center. When you start to break out the uses, then you want to look at internal capture. We had already submitted everything, got it scoped, and then we changed some of the uses. So we didn't, to be conservative, we stayed with the rates that VDOT and the town set in the scope, and we didn't adjust those. So again, it's conservative.
It's conservative, Mr. Mayor, but at this point in time with what you're proposing, it is not correct, nor does it show a true reflection of the number of vehicles that would even impact Washington Street, which is what I'm hearing you say, Bob, that the TAI is not done
No.
according to this plan.
Let me be very, very clear. The table that we were provided had an accommodation for both internal capture and pass-through. I'm not saying you created it, but the material that we received had that data in it. And the total trips per day was significantly higher than the total trips per day in the table provided in 2018. And the changes were denoted, which uses were no longer there, which uses had changed, yeah. So either we've got the correct data or we don't.
Some of the uses, again, to try and stay within apples to apples, some of the uses had pass-by and internal capture. Some did. Shopping center did. So that maintained. But when we revised the study, when we added in some of the drive-throughs, we didn't go back to VDOT and say, we need to do an internal capture or a pass-by. So we kept it at 0, and we continued on with the study. This chart maintains an apples to apples. So you're seeing exactly what was in the study for deductions, and then what you requested. There's a side-by-side. What I'm saying to you is, that's conservative. So you're seeing, yes, it's higher with the current use, but it's conservatively high. If we went in and took the pass-by, we'd be down here.
I'm not buying it.
What information? I feel like there's information that's missing. To be honest, I was a little bit sold a while ago because I like what you guys did, but now hearing that the TAI has not been done.
The TAI was done originally.
But it wasn't done with the Starbucks.
Not with the new uses, no.
Right, but the Starbucks being in that location has been the main focal point for the traffic study and has been the main discussions from our residents concerning the flow of traffic and the safety. So that has to be done with the new use. And tomorrow, if you decide not to put it there and put the bank there, then you can go back to the original one that you use. But that is definitely needed for the Starbucks if that's the direction that the developer wants to go.
If I could,
There's another layer to this that I'll also add to it. ITE just came out with a new addition to the formulas. Those formulas actually bring things lower. So if we were to scope this again and go through a whole new study, we'd be potentially using the new, I'm not 100% sure we would, the new ITE called ITE 11. That's the formulas, that's the new studies, they go out there and get more data. We might be using the new formulas. So I just want to make sure I'm trying to get everything out there so you understand everything. I don't know if you have
dovetail on that, Chris. Emily, we do require a TIA as part of the SUP process, correct? Or we should?
We should, it's not currently listed in the requirements.
Is it in the requirements for the revisions we're making? Just if you don't know off the top of your head, that's fine.
We'll cover that at the ZTA. Right now, we require it for the rezonings, and then we require in the SUP process that the applicant address a traffic analysis and show us that it does not adversely affect the surrounding area, neighborhood. And so if they choose to submit a TIA, that's fine. We do not in writing require that.
So I just want the developer to understand. I've been the one pushing to make sure that we all meet. I'm the one that stood up in the meeting. Hey, let's meet. Let's get everything out into the open. I asked the mayor to set up a meeting, and all the rest of the council agreed with it. Okay. Now we're in the meeting where the meeting really was designed for you to make sure that your T's are crossed, that any questions that you have. But now I am seeing coming into a meeting, I'm realizing that the TIA is not even, the one that is submitted is not for what you're presenting to the town.
So I just want to add total clarity here. So I'll ask Chad a question to add clarity, but what I'm hearing Chad tell us is the numbers that you have are high. So if you were okay with those numbers you've seen, you will be really okay if we were to do an additional traffic study on this particular loose. Now my question, Chad, coffee shop use, what's the percentage of pass-by that you would capture in that versus another type of use?
For a coffee shop,
Percentage-wise.
I would request it from VDOT to be around 50%. It can go as high as 80% when it doesn't have seating.
Okay. So it's going to be reduced by an additional 50%. That's what he's telling us.
Okay, that may be what he's telling us, but why not do
speculation
the
at
study?
best.
Why not initiate the study and bring it to the council so we have the facts, not just a professional with his opinion?
We can certainly update it.
Do you understand what I'm getting? You understand where I'm going? It's like right now there's this, it's overhanging. It's something that is not yet, we cannot make a decision without that. I know the council, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the council, but we're not going to make a decision based on something as important as a traffic analysis that you're not even able to provide, and the one that you provided had a bank in that location. And now you're proposing bringing in a Starbucks to the point where you had to move it to 2 lanes. You had to move it from exiting on the large road. You've done all these changes on it, but you're still, the basic information that is needed to help you to make the decision is not even provided. So if it comes back and it's 50% lower, hey, that's the facts.
Yeah.
Bring it.
Happy to.
I would suggest that given it's going to be replacing a Starbucks that's on the other side of the intersection with an established clientele, that a 50% pass-through capture, you're not going to make that. You're not even going to come close. Because that, currently, I would suggest that most of that traffic does not pass on 55. if you're counting Dominion Valley, Piedmont, the other traffic off of 66, stuff south on 15, suddenly you're going to be changing the traffic pattern to access the Starbucks from going west at the intersection of 15 and 55 to going east on 15 and 55 and bringing it into town. So I think, again, speculation on my part, but I think, you know, my belief would be that the pass-through would be significantly lower than 50%. And I want to see these numbers. I mean, we've been given charts and tables, and I've questioned them from day one since I have to correct the math, and now I'm hearing that they're not even complete or thorough. I mean, I have a greater expectation than that when I'm reviewing. When I get something to review, I expect the numbers to be correct and the numbers to be complete. And what I'm hearing tonight is that's not the case, which perhaps explains why I've had so much trouble with the numbers.
We would sit down with Emily and scope out the correct.
You had a question, Vice Mayor?
It was directed to what Bob was saying in regards to pass-by and percentages.
So all that, the traffic that you'd lose, or those people who would normally go to the old Starbucks, how would they enter into this facility?
The light.
At the light?
They're coming from
The light?
15.
So if it's new traffic.
From west to east?
So coming left here.
Okay. There's no left turn into...
Or making a U-turn.
No, this again is set to go as back as far as possible with a median to make sure there's no conflicts on this.
No, but that, the entrance here, there's no left turn coming from west?
There's a median right
Okay, cool.
But they could make a U-turn at the light.
They could make a U-turn unless the town requests that no U-turns be allowed. Trucks will not be allowed because it's too tight. Town's preference is no U-turns here. We put a no U-turn sign in the signal design and they're all forced to go.
Emily, are you good with what the council is requesting from the developer?
Yes.
Don, do you have any questions for us?
So just clarification, so I think we're going to ask the town attorney on the restricted limitation use, right? To see if that can be a condition under the current zoning of restaurant with drive-through use, okay? So that's out of my hands, obviously, and yours. And then the additional traffic analysis we can provide showing the lower trip generations. And I believe that there were no suggested alterations or changes to that plan. I just want to confirm that nobody has any concerns or wants to make any modification to that.
That's a very good question. I'll just correct you on something.
Okay.
Don't produce a traffic analysis with lower numbers. Just produce a traffic analysis. Because if you're saying you're producing one with lower numbers, that means... Okay, good. Personally, if I had to share on it, I like what you've done so far.
Okay,
So,
thank you. Anyone else have any modification to that, or everybody's got their questions answered and are good with that particular layout?
I just want to thank Chad for the thorough explanations with all the traffic stuff, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Is there, while I have everybody here, if there's anything else that you particularly need to see in the study? 'cause
we'll
I
shoot
would-
it to Emily.
Get it, yeah, if you can get it to myself or Emily, or tell me now, and I'll make sure that we're incorporating it. We'll probably follow the study that we did for the original site. It might be more condensed because it's focused here. But again, we'll meet with Emily if you have particulars, then obviously.
Do you have any models that identify what kind of stacking there will be at the traffic light to exit onto Washington?
We do have them. You can probably pull from the previous study. We can tell you what this was.
Yeah, because the primary two concerns that I have, of course, with this is totally unpredictable, but we already experience it with Chick-fil-A and McDonald's during peak sessions in which the stacking's too big that they bleed out on Washington. That's one of my scares here, is that it might bleed out. The other one is, with all this extra activity that's going on, if there's this huge stacking that ends up going on at the light because of all the businesses up front, you're pinching off all the townhouses that want to try to come out, and they're stuck having to fight for traffic just to get into their place of residence.
You're talking about the stacking on Washington Street eastbound, correct?
No, on the,
On Crossroads
on the
Village
Crossroads
Boulevard.
Village coming
I'm more
out.
concerned with the traffic stacking on the eastbound side. How much stacking lane do you have prior to the stoplight heading eastbound? So that we avoid the Chick-fil-A issue that we've got right now.
So the eastbound
Eastbound left.
you were looking here.
Yeah, just because of the inconvenience of the residents having to fight traffic just to get out of their complex.
While Chad's looking at that, Mayor, I will comment, I think, on one thing I just want to clarify. So there is a deceleration lane here that pulls all the traffic off of Route 55. And we did an exhibit, I don't know, 6 or 7 months ago maybe, where we showed cars stacking in that decel lane, but not in 55. And we were able to stack 55 automobiles in here without impacting Washington Street. So that was, I think that was very helpful for everybody to understand that we could stack 55 cars, you know, without impacting 55.
And that's at least a better comfort than what we're trying to deal with McDonald's and Chick-fil-A, because we've even rerouted McDonald's traffic, and it's still coming out during peak
Yeah.
onto the road.
I don't know how much comfort that is because you trap 15 vehicles from parking there plus the handicap ones
That was my point.
with 55.
Yeah, I don't know what was being said. Sorry, I was looking here. So just for order of magnitude, typically when we do our queuing, a car length is 25 feet. Cars are actually obviously smaller than that, but you have space in between. So AM for the eastbound left, so that's this left, that was, and again, this was the originally approved study, was 87, so roughly 3 cars. Obviously, AM inbound is a lot smaller. 160 for the PM, which is roughly 6 cars, and then 300. And then the storage we have is 350. So we're staying within that storage. I will say also with that, we can also retime the signal to make sure we give the lefts or the throughs, any direction, the priority. And I'll give an example. VDOT would make this a priority and fail this on purpose because it's the side street. So we tried to prioritize all approaches to make sure everything worked well together. The southbound approach in the study was 80, and I'm looking at the left through, so the left lane, not the right lane. 80, so roughly 3 cars, a little over 3 cars. 160, so that's roughly 6 cars short.
And that's with a bank.
That's with the previously approved study,
Okay,
yes.
so that doesn't.
We're going to have to
include it,
redo
yeah.
all this, absolutely. And I can tell you, right, we looked at it quickly. They're going to be similar to this, even with the added traffic, because we can modify the signal timings.
Does that include the townhomes, like the
Yes.
whole thing?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And then Saturday's the worst, because obviously you have all the commercial here, was 200 roughly, so 8 cars. And that's the 95th percentile. That's basically, for all intents and purposes, the worst case scenario. That's not the average queue. So the longest queue would be roughly 200.
Chad, I'm a little lost, so I just want to make sure everybody's not. So when you say 200 and then all of a sudden you say 8, what's that mean?
200 feet.
200 feet, which equates to 8 cars.
Okay.
Trying to give them so you can hopefully visualize it. And that would be updated with the new study.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think the takeaways then are, of course, getting with the town attorney for the SUP restriction comments and how that fits in with the ZTA requirements, and new trip TIAs. Anything else, guys?
I'm good.
No, sir.
Anything from you guys that you're good?
We're good? Yeah, we understand what we need.
Good. I hope this was productive.
Very helpful, yeah,
Okay.
very helpful. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you for bringing your whole team too. Thank
Yeah.
you guys.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, now we'll go to the next item, which is the yeah, let's take a recess, and then we'll start with the RFP. 5 minutes. Can we go out and throw this in?
Put on Marshall?
I've been looking at my texts that have been coming in. He said he was going to text me. Okay, we're starting meeting back up, request for proposal. Make note, we still haven't had any added members come in yet. Council members.
Yeah, so with the RFP, as I've discussed with council before, this is something when we had Katie here last time, it was at the end of August to request for her to provide the RFP for the sidewalk, the town sidewalk project. So this was the first draft, sent it to council. Councilman Weir had some comments that he added in here. I went through and had some edits as well. Just some minor changes, wanted to make sure that everything's clarified. I wanted to give council the opportunity to discuss it. I do know Councilman Passanello had sent me, all of council, some emails in regard to this since he was not going to be here. So this is an opportunity for us to discuss that as well. The goal is to discuss it today. If there's any comments we have today, so we can try and address it for the work session. Hopefully we can discuss it again at the work session to finalize it so that November 1st we can vote on it and start advertising this to start receiving bids. So I stand ready to answer any questions. But like I said, this is Christopher Consultants' first draft with some edits in here. And I know Bob's edits, there was a question in there about how we wanted to move forward with it. So that's up to council to discuss.
Okay. Anybody have any questions right up front? I have one if you want me to start. Okay, I see in here we do have a mention of the crosswalk. Do we have any description of the crosswalk? Is that in the engineering plans, or they're going to be putting in the engineering plans? We just have a requirement.
So right now, to my understanding of what was discussed with Katie, was that we wanted to make sure that the entrance to the park, where the driveway is, was the ADA ramp to allow for a crosswalk in the future.
Okay.
Because I discussed this with Mary yesterday, I think, is that with VDOT, if VDOT does not allow for the crosswalk, even if we paid for the engineering and design of it, if they say no, then we can't install the crosswalk. So that was one thing. I mean, if council would like, we can add that in here, but that could be something that we spend money on it, that it never ends up happening.
I don't think it's necessary at this point in time. I think regardless of whether we get it or not, the ADA ramps are a good idea.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it sets us up to do it in the
'cause, you know, I
future, but
wanna-
I don't even want to talk to VDOT about crosswalks right now.
Right.
Um,
Which is,
I just-
well, the reason I bring that up is because I want more than just a crosswalk in here. I see this as a big safety hazard. And so I want lights put in, not crossing lights, but some type of, you push the button, it flashes to let people
So
realize that
That
they're
would
going
be
to be
further
walking
down the road.
across.
Yeah, that would be a separate project further
And-
down the road, because you'd have to do a warrant on the crosswalk.
Correct, and all that would be dictated by VDOT, because if VDOT didn't approve the certain specifications that you're talking about, we probably would not be able to get them installed. So to link the sidewalk as well as that, Councilman Weir, I think, just stated it would be one of those things that we'd pay for it and then we'd have to address it later.
It would probably also extend the review and approval period significantly.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to bring it up because, you know, I didn't know if maybe we could at least get the design of having some type of electrical easily accessible out there with a junction box while the roads or the curbs are, before the curbs get put in and all that stuff. So I didn't know what future planning we wanted to do on this to try and save money in the future. But
How much would we typically invest in a sidewalk project if it requires VDOT's approval and be on VDOT's timeline? I'm new to this, so I don't know.
Well, VDOT will drag this out an extra 6 months to a year, right? That's my understanding
At
typically.
least. I mean, we're still gonna have to get VDOT approval on a lot of this.
Yeah.
But throwing in a crosswalk, and then if you want essentially what is pedestrian signalization, you have to do a warrant on it, correct? And a traffic analysis, and if we want to get this done post haste,
Yeah, it's like.
adding that parameter to it will slow it down significantly and probably increase both the engineering and the construction cost.
Yeah, but truly, I'd like to find out what's involved in future-proofing this by, like I said, the electrical junction box where we kind of figure this is going to be.
Well, just to add, we own the property adjacent to this project that it's going through. So at any point in time, the town can move forward with running the electrical to a junction box down. Now cutting into the asphalt and doing that, regardless of what we do, we're still going to have to cut into the asphalt, or if it's the sidewalk. So, I mean, that's the only other way, is if we ran like conduit under the sidewalk. That would be the only way I can think of that would future-proof it. But I also agree with Bob that a sidewalk where the town owns the right-of-way, as long as we meet VDOT standards, this is a very quick review. Once you start adding stuff that involves cutting asphalt or getting into the street, then we start having substantial time for them to review it.
Or anything that requires a traffic analysis, and as it stands right now, the sidewalk project, I don't believe requires a traffic analysis because it doesn't impact the through traffic.
Yeah, correct.
Correct.
This, as of right now, this project is 500 linear feet across the town park that connects the Blight sidewalk to the Haymarket Baptist sidewalk.
Well, we did speculate restriping, right, for a turn lane. So is that going to require a traffic impact analysis?
There's already,
I mean,
Yes and no.
that's the question, just throwing it out there.
I think it makes sense what you're saying, Mr. Mayor. I think that's something that we leave off for now, but just highlight monies that we can always go
we could do it as a separate project.
at the same
and
time
run
as the
it at the
project
same
is going
time if
on,
need
that
be.
we run conduits underneath the sidewalk, but it's something we pay for on the side, but don't get this too detailed for them to then trigger another study or a delay. So the direction that you're thinking is really good, especially running conduits from the closest electrical box to the front of the property, our property, and then going under the sidewalk, so we don't have to tear up the sidewalk to run conduits later.
Yeah. Okay, that's the only concern I really had in this. Now that I've warmed you all up, any more questions?
I just want the language tightened up to make it, what's the word? Consistent throughout with respect to who's responsible for the project. I don't care if we can't call it a business manager because we don't have one. So is it a town manager, the treasurer? Do we want to just say procurement manager that we can just appoint at any time?
Well, I think it should be a functional, so just a contracts manager, right? And then we can
Then we can
toss a
assign.
hat out into
Yeah.
the ring, right, for somebody to pick up and wear.
Do you
Yeah.
just want to call it the town project manager then? Because that way the project manager can always
Project manager
shift.
works
Yeah.
fine for me.
Is that okay?
Yeah, project manager works fine, just make sure it's, because there's so many different things in here. Some places it's business manager, some places it's town manager. There's just no
I
consistency.
tend to prefer the first one that you suggested, contract. Project manager is more of a permanent position. Contract, it depends on the contract that person is running it, because there are going to be some contracts that the town clerk may run. There'll be going to be some contracts that the treasurer. in this
Semantics, I don't
case.
care one way or
So
the other.
I would prefer if you use the word contract, because it just pertains to only that contract.
Several people could be working on different contracts.
Exactly.
So this would be one
Right.
specific to that
That's
individual.
fine with
A
me.
project, if you look at the project as a streetscape, but there may be different portions of the streetscape where you have a contract manager who's in charge of this section of the streetscape. But just leave off project manager and use contract for now, is my suggestion.
I'm fine with that.
Understood?
Understood?
And the theory is we will have this in final form at the November meeting to authorize and publish?
My goal is to make these edits tonight, first thing in the morning, so that we'll be able to put this in the work session for additional discussion, so that, just in case, this way you guys have a copy, you can look at it, thumb through it, see if there's anything else that jumps out at you. But correct, the goal is to approve it in final form at the November 1st meeting, and very shortly after that, start advertising, so we can try and get some proposals in.
All right.
So I think my concern, I think I did try to address it in an email, but I wanted to raise it now. We met with Katie at the end of July on this.
It was the end of August 23rd.
So the end of August. So when she went off for maternity.
She went off the 16th or 17th of September.
Because I was of the impression that that meeting on the 23rd, we were just waiting on her to submit the RFP to then act on it.
So what we did at the 23rd was approve Christopher Consultant to start working on this. And then it took them a month to come up with the first draft of what we have in front of us.
Okay, I'm missing something in my timeline. Is there something we could have done differently to get this tighter, to make this done faster?
Unless we would have approved it to Christopher Consultant sooner. I don't, because it's still, once the draft comes to us, it was still going to have to come to council for you guys' ultimate approval once we finalize it and it becomes the RFP for the town streetscape project, then we can start advertising.
Has Martin reviewed it yet?
He is not.
You want to go ahead and initiate that, Ken?
Yes. Directive for Martin to review once edits are put in.
So we got it at the end of September. Martin hasn't seen it as yet?
This is the first draft.
Correct, because this is the first draft. I mean, they're minor edits we want to make sure that we address before we send it to the attorney to pay the extra fee for him to do it.
Yes.
An edit I'm noticing on page 13, the very top, it seems like this got cut off. It says,
Yes.
nor shall it result in an extension of time without blank, blank, blank. What is supposed to be in there?
I agree with you, and that's where my something missing in parentheses, I agree with you. I think
Okay.
something's missing that I need to touch base with Christopher Consulting to figure that out.
Okay.
Hang on.
Is subcontracts.
Right.
I have a very simple suggestion. Nor shall it result in an extension of time, period. There.
Probably without agreement or something like that.
Or something like that.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
like without
I was gonna say.
reasonable excuse or, something along
Without-
those lines.
Yeah.
But there's something
there's
missing.
something.
You're correct, and I just wanted to touch base with them and see if I can give them.
That's actually a Martin question, to be honest with you. He's
So
on the-
notwithstanding November's meeting, we should be able to give this a stamp of approval and then get bids.
Get it out there.
That's still the goal. Yes, sir.
Council clarity is that I'm gonna put this on the work session agenda
Yes.
for review and then come in November regular meeting for approval, correct?
Correct.
The updated draft, correct? Like the final draft is what
Hopefully
you're
with
gonna
Martin's
upload,
comments
right?
by then.
Okay.
For the final meeting, hopefully we can get Martin's comments. For the work session, since the agenda's going out tomorrow, it'll just be with the updates we made here tonight.
Now,
And-
if Martin can get them done before the work session, that would be nice. If he can't, so be it, but
Yeah, okay, yeah. If it'll be in the agenda, if Martin's edits are provided, then we'll make sure we print those out and provide them to council as soon as we receive them.
Okay.
And then the only other question that I was going to ask council for clarification is if you go to page 14, where it talks about the debarment status, it goes from 14, it rolls over to 15. I did have a question because essentially what this had said is that, talking about the procurement, the vendor certifies that they're not currently debarred by the town of Haymarket. However, I was wondering if council would be amenable to include debarment from like Virginia Commonwealth or maybe even federal jobs, because we know there's certain individuals that they can no longer work with VDOT because they've done such a poor job. I don't know. They necessarily haven't been debarred by us, but if they're not able to work for the state, I kind of think that, I don't know if the town would be interested in having them work for us if they can't work for the state.
Hoping to
I
get
would-
back any money
I
from?
would make a note of that and ask Martin again.
Yeah, but are we hoping to get any money back from VDOT for this project?
No.
Not at all. Are we hoping to
Well,
get their,
we, at this point, no. Let's
Yeah,
just-
at this-
let's
at this
assume
point,
no.
And not only that,
to get their
VDOT
blessings?
management requirements would pretty much expand this out to require
But-
another 300,000.
But I can understand why we would want to do it, because if the contractor comes in and has had issues with, let's say, VDOT in the past, and in the process of doing the construction, they screw something up, then I suspect that the hammer that comes down from VDOT would be even harder than it otherwise would be. I suspect it's a question for Martin as to who else we can list in there as, for debarment. It's probably not a bad idea, and it also weeds out the bad apples.
oh yeah, definitely.
So,
And to get
but
on.
can we legally do that? I don't know.
So to answer your question, Councilman Morris, what this is, this section, correct me if I'm wrong, my reading is basically if they have been debarred by the federal government from doing projects or the state, we don't even consider them.
Simple.
So, and that's where it doesn't necessarily mean that we offer the position to them, just because at the same point, we want to get as many quotes as possible to make sure the numbers are accurate. So it doesn't, you get what I'm saying? It doesn't necessarily mean we're going to award the contract, but we want to make sure we have, if we can get 4 or 5 proposals to make sure we're paying the correct amount for the project.
Are we making the request for bid public?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
has to be.
Yeah, correct. It has to be.
Now, how do we want to handle bid opening? Do we want to do it sealed bid?
Correct. My recommendation would be sealed bid based on a particular date, and I
So
mean,
they're opened up here in front of witnesses?
like,
Okay.
to be honest, it would be something where a table here, or we sit at the dais with the contractor sitting right here, and we go through the whole.
You make it open to the contractors.
Correct. And
And
it,
you number them, you open them and number them, and provide copies to anybody that wants them.
Yes, our last one we did, Katie and I handled it right here.
Okay.
And I took notes, I took all the information down, and she read them each out, and they sat in the audience.
Okay.
How many did you have?
2.
There have been times when the
That's-
room has been full in here
That's why a
before.
federal debar, we probably won't get anybody who wants to nibble at our project.
Anybody
if
that's
they're a federal
debarred,
effort.
anybody that's debarred and sees that language isn't going to apply, and quite frankly, we don't want them anyway.
so I'll make sure.
And then the room is full, you say that comment, they leave, and we're left with a 2.
So I'll add that to the questions for Martin.
Yes. And
Okay. So I have everything I need to move forward, so if council has any more questions, or like I said, if you guys see anything, please just send it over. I'll be working on this, like I said, to get it done for the work session so we can discuss it, so the updated version of this.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't have any questions. Anybody else? I think we can move forward then. Do we got to,
Joe, I mean Bob, sorry, you guys look alike.
who wants to take the honors?
Too much pressure. Go ahead, Bob.
Tick.
Come on, Larry, get your name in the book.
I got a motion.
I second.
I got a second. All in favor, say
Aye.
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 See, I don't have to do it.